In the years after World War II, Los Angeles was a city of dreams. Hollywood's siren song called to a generation of young Americans, promising a new life under the California sun. Into this intoxicating landscape stepped Elizabeth Short. Like so many others, she arrived from the East Coast with a suitcase filled more with hope than belongings, her eyes set on the silver screen. But before the headlines, before the infamy that would make her a fixture in American crime, there was just the person. A young woman trying to find her place. Born in Massachusetts, Elizabeth's childhood was marked by the Great Depression. The disappearance of her father instilled in her a profound restlessness, a deep-seated desire to escape. She kept heading west, chasing a stability she had never known. Her journey was a patchwork of bus tickets and temporary addresses. She wrote home often, her letters painting a picture of sunshine and screen tests, carefully shielding her family from the anxieties of her day-to-day existence. The reality was a constant hustle. Money was thin, and she relied on a network of acquaintances and fellow dreamers, sleeping on couches and living on shared aspirations. Friends recalled her distinct style, all black dresses, a disarming smile, and a resilient charm that drew people in. She cultivated an air of mystery and glamour, even when her pockets were empty. The iconic studio gates glimmered from a distance, a constant, tantalizing reminder of the world she so desperately wanted to enter. Odd jobs as a waitress paid for rent and a movie ticket. In cafes and on street corners, she networked, listened, and waited for the one break she needed. Behind the carefully constructed glamour was a tougher, disciplined rhythm. She navigated this world with a mixture of grace and caution, trusting that her persistence would pay off. This is where her story truly begins. Not in death, but in life. Not in legend, but in the quiet, relentless pursuit of a dream. Morning breaks on Leimert Park, a quiet, middle-class neighborhood waking under a blanket of cool January fog. Lawns are manicured. Houses sit neatly in a row. It's a portrait of post-war tranquility, a place where the city's darker currents feel a world away. But on this day, that illusion is about to be shattered. The date is January 15th, 1947. In a few hours, this ordinary Wednesday will become infamous. A local resident, out for a morning walk with her young daughter, notices something unsettling in a vacant, weed-strewn lot on South Norton Avenue. At first, it looks like a discarded department store mannequin, broken in two and oddly posed. But as she draws closer, a horrifying realization dawns. This is no mannequin. A frantic call is placed to the Los Angeles Police Department. The dispatcher takes the report, the words hanging in the air with disbelief. A patrol unit is dispatched, its siren silent, to confirm what sounds impossible. The first patrol car glides to the curb. Two uniformed officers step out. Their training takes over, a shield against the shock. Their eyes scan the scene, confirming the caller's terrifying account. The immediate priority is to preserve every potential clue. They stretch rope and tape, establishing a wide perimeter. They are creating a sterile bubble in the middle of a waking city, an outdoor laboratory where the secrets of the crime might be found. The activity quickly draws attention. Neighbors gather in hushed, anxious groups beyond the police line. Almost as quickly, the press arrives. Reporters with notepads and photographers with bulky flashbulb cameras descend, a flock of vultures sensing a major story. The tension between the methodical police and the hungry media begins instantly. Soon, the detectives arrive. Homicide specialists in fedoras and trench coats. They step past the uniformed officers, their faces grim and focused. Hats are low, notebooks are open. They absorb the scene with practiced detachment, their minds already working, piecing together the first fragments of the puzzle. The methodical work begins. Evidence markers, small numbered tents, rise like flags in the damp grass, each one marking a potential clue. A tire track, a footprint, a discarded item. A grid is mentally drawn across the lot. Measurements are taken with painstaking precision. Sketches are begun, capturing the spatial relationships between the body and its surroundings. Every detail, no matter how small, is documented. No one rushes. Procedure leads. Emotion follows. The detectives notice a critical, glaring absence. there is very little blood. This is not where the murder happened. The body was brought here, placed deliberately, posed for discovery. This wasn't just a killing. It was a statement. The scene is orderly, clinical, a stark and chilling contrast to the brutal chaos of the crime itself. It is a devastating tableau, and the men tasked with deciphering it feel the immense weight of their duty. Beyond the tape, reporters trade rumors, desperate for any scrap of information. But facts move 1 inch at a time, dictated by the slow, deliberate pace of the investigation. The victim is a Jane Doe. Her name is not yet known, her story a complete mystery. But as the investigation gets underway, a city holds its breath, sensing that this crime is different, darker than what has come before. The meticulous notes, photographs, and sketches recorded here in Leimert Park will become the foundation of an investigation that will captivate and haunt Los Angeles for decades to come. By nightfall, the city is a headline. Press deadlines roar. Ink dries faster than facts. Competing mastheads race the clock. A name catches Black Dahlia, glamour tangled with grief. The moniker spreads, crowding out the woman behind it. Tips flood in, some heartfelt, many performative. Rumors arrive dressed as revelations. Fact: Elizabeth Short. Rumor: lurid tales multiply. Editors juggle tips, trim context, and chase certainty. Leaks slip from corridors to columns. Detectives push back, guarding files as speculation sprints ahead. Carefully worded statements aim to calm. Nuances lost. Radio voices stitch fragments into certainty. At newsstands, fear moves faster than print. Verified details advance. Slow, careful, and easily drowned out. Each myth casts a longer shadow, obscuring Elizabeth. Between truth and spectacle, the case bends under the weight. In the weeks following the discovery, the investigation into Elizabeth Short's murder became a frantic, sprawling effort. In Los Angeles, leads scattered like ashes in the wind, a whirlwind of too many suspects and far too few certainties. The case was not just a local tragedy, it was a national obsession, and the sheer volume of information pouring in threatened to drown the detectives tasked with solving it. The initial list of persons of interest quickly ballooned from dozens to hundreds, and then into the thousands. Every tip, no matter how outlandish, had to be logged and followed up. The suspect pool became a vast ocean of faces and names, a net cast so wide it was impossible to close. For every promising lead, 10 more led to dead ends, stretching the LAPD's resources to their absolute limit. Compounding the chaos, a deluge of false confessions flooded in. Over 60 people, mostly men, came forward to claim responsibility for the crime. Their motives varied. Some sought a fleeting moment of fame, others were mentally unstable, and a few were simply cruel pranksters. Each confession, no matter how dubious, had to be meticulously vetted, a process that consumed hundreds of hours of valuable investigation time. These overlapping, contradictory, and costly claims were a drain on morale and resources. The media frenzy, which had given the case its notorious moniker, also became a significant obstacle. Hoaxes and attention seekers, eager for their 15 minutes of fame, constantly called in bogus tips, further muddying what little clarity remained. At the crime scene itself, crucial errors were made before the investigation even truly began. The area was not properly secured, and scenes touched by the morbid curiosity of onlookers and reporters risked destroying what forensic science could have saved. Furthermore, the forensic capabilities of the 1940s were rudimentary by today's standards. Chain of custody gaps and the era's scientific limits hampered the evidence from the start, leaving a trail of physical clues that could never be fully analyzed. Jurisdictional friction added another layer of difficulty. As files crossed city lines and involved multiple law enforcement agencies, cooperation was often strained under the immense pressure and professional pride of different departments. Information silos formed where critical details were not shared effectively. This lack of coordination lagged as the intense public and media spotlight only grew brighter, creating cracks through which a killer could slip. As days turned into months and months into years, the trail grew colder. Memory, an already unreliable witness, began to blur. Key individuals moved on, their recollections fading with time. The once constant flow of tips slowed to a trickle, and solid detail was gradually replaced by rumor, speculation, and urban legend. The case file, thick with dead ends, was eventually relegated to the archives. Yet, the story does not end there. Today, new tools revisit those old, dusty pages. Modern forensic science, from vast criminal databases to advanced DNA analysis and digital reconstructions, offers a glimmer of hope. The failures of the Black Dahlia investigation became hard-won lessons for law enforcement. They shaped the development of multi-agency task forces, established rigorous standards for crime scene management, and professionalized the craft of preserving evidence. The case remains a subject of intense fascination. Generations of dedicated researchers and authors still pore over the files, attempting to separate fact from the pervasive myth, line by painstaking line. But through all the theories, the suspects, and the procedural analysis, it is essential to remember Elizabeth Short, not as a headline or a puzzle, but as a human being. She was a young woman with hopes, dreams, and relationships whose life was tragically cut short. Her identity has too often been eclipsed by the dark and enduring myth her murder created. In the pursuit of answers, we must never lose sight of the person at the heart of the mystery. We remember Elizabeth Short,